Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a fourth day of games here in the GGvision Liquid Colosseum with me, Sebastian Sjoberg, and our featured champion,
Liquid Jinro, Gladiator of the Week.
Here spawning as the red Terran at the 12 o'clock starting position of Shattered Temple. His opponent is none other than Artist.fOU. Here as the blue Terran at the 9 o'clock. However, it should be said that Artist is no longer part of the FOU team. The FOU team, of course, has been acquired by, I believe, the Australian pro gaming association FX Open, who now has a foreign division as well as a Korean division, which is the entire former FOU team. I do believe that Artist has proceeded to go elsewhere with his career and is no longer part of the old FOU or the new FXO, so we will refer to him as Artist, the free agent in this matchup. But he was on the FOU team, and that says a lot, ladies and gentlemen. That shows that he is among the very best and has practiced with the very best. Jinro now going for a quick gas ahead of Artist, so that's the first deviation. Now Artist 1 SCV later or something like that is planting his own refinery, but these small things, they matter a lot in any mirror matchup, and mirror matchup as they go, the TVT one has been the most interesting lately, as I'm sure you would agree if you watched the matches from MLG Anaheim recently. It has undergone so much development and evolution, the TVT matchup, and it's all about Hellions these days. It's all about heavy mech, and it has turned into something quite different from what we saw a month ago perhaps. And speaking of interesting, here is an unorthodox barracks placement by Artist, placing it right next to his barracks. The only advantage that I can see from this is that he can get his SCV back to mining minerals a few seconds earlier, and again, in a mirror matchup, these things count. They amount to lots of money later, but still, it leaves him susceptible to, if not attack, then at least early scouting. There's nothing that can prevent an early scouting SCV from Jinro from getting in. Now placing his factory, and looking at factory timing, we see that they are identical. Both factories planted at the exact same time, so we see how these two players being indeed very, very practiced in this matchup. And here we see now Jinro, as in the last game on Shakura's Plateau versus a Protoss opponent, got his scout in and will be able to tell exactly what's going on. The factory timing, the double gas, the SCV count, everything Jinro knows. Meanwhile, Artist will not have the same opportunity because Jinro walled in the way you're supposed to. This is entirely SCV proof, and with a Marine here, there's just no way that Artist will be able to scout Jinro. And Jinro actually managing to escape with his scouting SCV, going now to the Selnaga Watchtower in the middle. Very nice by Jinro, taking an early lead once again. Now we see one reactor and a tech lab going up here, so we will be seeing Hellions with Blue Flame very shortly. Jinro now moving out with his factory and re-securing his wall in. He seems to be going westwards with it. Now we see Jinro being slightly later with his tech lab, now initiating his own Blue Flame upgrade, but they are practically identical, both of them. Jinro has not gone for a second gas, unlike his opponent Artist, so that's another deviation. And Jinro is actually planting his factory here near the gold expansion, which is an aggressive placement, because this would imply that he wants to put on a bit of early Marine Hellion pressure, and he wants a shorter supply route to his opponent. Nevertheless, this Hellion has scouted it, and now Jinro has revealed his hand. Artist.fOU should definitely retreat all the way back to his base, because Jinro will try to take an early lead here. We see a starport being planted by Artist, so is that for Medivacs, is that for Vikings, or for some other shenanigans? We shall have to see, but it's definitely something that Jinro is quick to respond to, and now going for his second gas. So both going starports. This is again the new Korean TVT. Jinro now using his barracks as a scouting device and to provide detection so that he can fire on the supply depots, and actually shutting in the enemy Hellion with his landed barracks and constructing a Marine. This is not the methodical, secure, play it steady Jinro. This is the overly aggressive, I'm going to kill you Jinro, and I must say I like him. This is as aggressive as you can be with a barracks, definitely, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not sure it's too good an idea, however. 3 Hellions, lots of Marines, and the ramp advantage, the show point advantage. So Jinro has to concede for the moment, and will be able to repair his barracks. He should do that because he does not want to construct an additional one just yet. Meanwhile, however, we see that Jinro is indeed taking an early economic lead, or will attempt to, constructing a command center well before his opponent, as well as Viking production. Whereas Artist has already one Viking out, and now they're both exchanging blows, killing 1 Hellion each, roasting some Marines, and 1 landed Viking will be able to provide that extra bit of damage that will push Jinro away, losing many Hellions and SCVs. Here, looking quickly at units kill tab, we see that Artist is indeed in a slight lead, but that's all academic at the moment, since he has not even started his own command center. Looking quickly at the units tab, we see 2 Hellions for Jinro, 3 for Artist, 1 Hellion, and 6 Marines for Artist. So he has managed to preserve more of his Marines. Jinro was perhaps not too successful in that early attack, but it all comes down to the follow-up. Will he be able to take his expansion, or will Artist be able to pin him back and prevent him from doing precisely what he wants? This is of course a very light contain. Artist can't do much right now, but if he ever gets siege tanks, that's an entirely different thing. Siege mode now being researched by Jinro, and siege tanks on the way, and if he can get these out of it, he will be able to break the push very easily, unless he of course allows these Hellions to get in. Got 4 or 5 Hellions, 1 going down, and the Vikings exchanging blows, Jinro winning the air battle, and with the siege tank now out and siege mode more than halfway done, the push has been all but thwarted for Artist, but he continues to reinforce. 2 more Hellions, again having as much as 5, but again now Jinro has the choke point advantage. And Artist now claiming his own expansion, but Jinro's command center is already finished and is now floating over, and there's very little Artist can do. Only now is he initiating his own siege tech upgrade and constructing siege tanks of his own. More factories being constructed as well by Artist. We've seen no more of that from Jinro yet, but undoubtedly this game will involve a lot of heavy mech from both sides. Now Jinro finally eradicating the enemy forces outside his ramp, losing a few Hellions in the process. We'll see if he chooses to replace those. It's not necessarily what you want in the mid and late game. Going for a double gas at the expansion right away, because the stuff that Jinro wants and needs, they will cost a lot of gas. He is well ahead in expansion timing though, since he planted a finished one there just now. And now we see Artist switching up his add-ons. This might go down on the reactor, yes, and seems like he's a bit indecisive there, Artist.fOU. Seems like he actually wants more siege tanks out of his infrastructure, going for double siege tank production, we have to assume, unless he wants to go for Thors, but that would be unnecessary given that Jinro don't have too many Vikings yet. Bit of a skirmish here, landed Vikings chasing away the Artist forces, but these Hellions will of course be able to provide light map control to anything that isn't siege tanks for the moment. But that is precisely what Jinro's got, and again he's choosing to be aggressive. This side of Jinro we haven't seen too often, but as I said before, this is his return to full power and glory, and I think a lot of aggression will pave the way for that. Landing his Vikings as the siege tanks are retreating, taking a lot of damage, and only now getting repaired, and Jinro is retreating, but that allowed him to get within siege range of the command center. This is a very, very aggressive maneuvering once again, ladies and gentlemen. The SCV is forced to repair, and now the Vikings are exchanging blows. Jinro's Vikings are more injured, so Artist now putting a 4th one into the mix is definitely superior in the air, but that doesn't matter because the siege tanks, they are hammering down on the command center. Artist needs to repair with all of his forces, and that is costing money and it's losing mining time. And meanwhile, there was a drop going on, and you could follow that in the picture-in-picture screen. But looking here quickly at the units lost tab, we see how they are indeed quite even, both in units and workers killed. So they are exchanging blows, but Jinro took down the expansion, now losing these tanks, but that was a well worthwhile investment. Artist still got some forces around Jinro's base, and I must say, when looking at the SCV count here, he needs to transfer them back. They are indeed both hitting each other where it hurts the most, but I must say Jinro, having destroyed the enemy command center, well ahead. Very nicely done, Jinro. Looking quickly at the income tab, we see how they are quite even. Jinro is ahead in gas, somewhat even in minerals. Artist just dropped some mules, but nevertheless, I must say it's looking good for a champion. But I said that last game as well, and that wasn't determined until the very last second. Now Artist going for another much heavier push now, and again the air battle seems this time to be in favor of Jinro, having to land his Viking to prevent him from dying. But now it's Artist's turn to lay siege, and Jinro will be able to save his own command center. Artist could have done that before, but must have slipped his mind. Jinro will win the air battle, I do believe, but nevertheless, this is very threatening to his situation. But dropping... This is not a manner mule, this is a very tactical device by Jinro, dropping one of his own mules so that the splash damage of Artist's tanks would injure his own troops, but they were quite spread out, so I don't think it had the full and desired effect. But I do believe Jinro will be able to clear this up, but it somehow makes up for the fact that he destroyed Artist's command center. He's also destroyed the refinery, so Jinro's economy has taken a huge blow. But that goes for Artist as well, who's only mining with one SCV, now transferring. And looking at the income tab, we see that they're dead even in harvesters, and that now Jinro is ahead in mineral intake. And looking at the infrastructure, we see 2 factories, 1 barracks only, and 1 starport for Jinro, and not too many siege tanks, though he's slowly gaining a huge Viking fleet. Artist still got Hellions in production. That will of course decrease his overall tank count. He's only got 2 factories as well, and 1 starport, and quite many tech labs. Seems like he will want to be able to switch instantly between different tech choices, Hellions versus siege tanks and so forth. We'll see if this ever goes to battlecruiser level. I'd love to see how these players micro around each other with those kinds of juggernauts. But again, it's Jinro's turn to be aggressive, and we'll be able to push out with 3 tanks and quite a few Vikings, 5 of them. No player has gone for upgrades yet, so they are dead even. Only 2 Vikings landed, and Jinro might be able to land them right here. 2 Hellions don't make too much damage, but we'll just have to see what happens. Have to keep a close eye on that. Here we've got 3 Hellions hanging out. Jinro might be able to take these down. Actually, Jinro has now reinitiated his own Hellion production, and we see an armory now completing for Artist. That could mean Thors, because Jinro now has a superior lead when it comes to flyers. He is dominating the air, so 1 or 2 Thors could definitely turn that tide instantly. Finally, the Vikings find something they can shoot at, and now dropping more aggressive mules that will be able to definitely slay the siege tanks via proxy, and the Vikings providing beautiful detection here, providing vision up on the ramp, and Jinro is now laying siege to Artist's base, and there's very little he can do. He can't break the tank line. And these Vikings, being in superior number, can truly provide a lot of damage. We see the Thor being halfway completed, and that just might turn the tide of battle in Artist's favor. We'll have to see, but I wouldn't be surprised if Jinro lands these Vikings. He's got a high number of them, and with siege tank support, that could be just enough to destroy these buildings and truly push Artist back. And now resupplying, reinforcing with even more Vikings. Just look at them, that's 9 Vikings. The first player to get ahead with the upgrades, I feel, though, would be in a great advantage. Artist has got a Thor out by now, or at least he should have. It's supposed to be here somewhere, and he could also go for upgrades. Now Jinro is landing. There is the Thor landing, taking out the siege tank, but one Thor will be able to take down all of these Vikings even when they are landed, and Jinro has to retreat, but nevertheless he took out one siege tank and is definitely winning right now, but we'll have to see. Once again landing, Artist is forced to pull all his SUVs, and even so Jinro takes down the siege tanks, and this single Thor is the only Thor in Jinro's side. Again landing his Vikings, and there's nothing he can do. The immobile Thor cannot get up the ramp quick enough, and if he does, well, these siege tanks, they are within range, and it will be able to hammer him into pieces. Meanwhile, the Vikings landed. How often do you see this? Well, a lot more often these days, considering these metagame developments, and I just love this development in TVT. Ladies and gentlemen, this is exciting. The Thor now again getting punished, and the Vikings, 5 of them now landed. They are walking, strolling into the base of Artist, and destroying all that is there. The blue flame don't make too much damage against this unit type, so well done, Jinro. The Thor, however, having now obliterated all but the last Viking. Viking production continues for Jinro. Looking at the economy tab quickly, we see 41 harvesters to 30 in Jinro's favor. Now he's backing off, content with the damage he's made. He's got 7 tanks, 6 Vikings, 1 Marine, and 5 Hellions, just for good measure, whereas we have only 4 tanks and 1 Thor for Artist, and that's not too good at all. Looking at the units lost tab, we see 57 versus 91, so Jinro is in a very good lead, as well as in the workers tab, so looking good for a Swedish Gladiator today. And again, another push. This Thor will go down in instant. The SUVs are nowhere around. These siege tanks, however, should force Jinro to move back. Yes, losing 3 or 4 tanks there needlessly. Less than amazing, but Jinro can afford it. He's in a strong lead right now, but this Thor with the splash damage on the flyers, the Vikings don't want to approach that on their own. Jinro now destroying these rocks will be able to do a very aggressive expansion, and of course that's the defending by attacking. If you're sieging up your opponent whilst you're expanding behind of it, well, then I guess it's safe. Seems like Artist is moving out for the last and final push. If he can break this, then he's still got a shot. But look at these siege tanks, very well fortified, and that's a half GG from Artist, formerly Artist.fOU, who has to concede that Jinro was the better Terran player in this game. And I must say again, this showcases Jinro's ability to be aggressive. He never ever let up and continued to hammer down his opponent throughout the game. It was a beautiful testament of skill and a beautiful testament of what Terran versus Terran has turned into. If you remember the Brood War days, you know that it was somewhat heavy, and nowadays it seems like it's liquid metal, ladies and gentlemen. And I hope you enjoyed this cast, and that we'll be back tomorrow for day 5. We are nearing the conclusion of the Liquid Colosseum with Jinro as our gladiator, but it's getting better and better, and I do hope you'll watch the next one as well. I'm Sebastian Sjoberg, GG and out.